anyways. I think we're all here. Anyways, I guess the verse I'm wanting to start out in is 2 Kings in chapter 4. And there in 2 Kings in chapter 4, I was going to read to y'all verses 1 through 7. And it's there's so much in these few verses here. Before we read them, let's go to the Lord in prayer so He can bless the word that He's given. Heavenly Father, we come this day and we thank you and praise you for all that you do. Father, we thank you for your word, for every word that you give us. Father, right now as we go forth to hear this word and to speak this word, Father, I just ask that you put your anointing upon the remainder of the service. I ask that you reach in and meet us here. I ask that you send this word out so that it hits their ears and so that they hear it, Father. I ask that you help them to hear what you desire for them to hear. I ask that you cause me to speak only what you would have me to speak, Father. And I thank you and praise you for it. It's in the name of Jesus. Amen. And there, in starting in verse 1 of chapter 4 in 2 Kings, it says, "A certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets cried out to Elijah, saying, Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that your servant feared the Lord. And the creditor is coming to take my 2 sons to be his slaves. So Elisha said to her, What shall I do for you? Tell me, what do you have in the house? And she said, Your maidservant has nothing in the house but a jar of oil. Then he said, Go borrow vessels from everywhere, from all your neighbors, empty vessels. Do not gather just a few. And when you have come in, you shall shut the door behind you and your sons. Then pour it into all those vessels, and set aside the full ones. So she went from him, and shut the door behind her and her sons, who brought the vessels to her, and she poured it out. Now it came to pass, when the vessels were full, that she said to her sons, Bring me another vessel. And he said to her, There is not another vessel. So the oil ceased. Then she came and told the man of God, and he said, Go sell the oil, pay your debt, and you and your sons live on the rest. Amen. You know, there's a lot there, a whole lot there. And you know, it's incredible to me that she has basically nothing. She has a little bit of oil in the bottom of the jar. She has this ginormous debt where she is fixing to actually lose her children into slavery. Because at that time, if you couldn't pay your debt, that was how you paid it, is you gave somebody from your family to be that person's slave to account for the debt. And they stayed there willingly until they had it worked off. It's actually, sadly, we hear the word slave here and we think of the type of slavery that has been here in America, and we think of somebody in bondage being beaten and things like that. But that is not really the slavery they went through. The slavery they went through was actually a lot closer to what we call a working class citizen. They just stayed and worked until their debt was paid, kind of like we do. We go to work, we stay and work until we pay for our house, pay for our car. But nevertheless, when they would leave, they would take them to a far land. They wouldn't let them go home every night the way we get to. And so she has nothing to pay this debt, but yet out of what little bit she has, God multiplies it so that she can pay her debt. And it doesn't matter how small of an item that you have. If you give it over to God and let God have it, He can work it to your advantage so that you can pay your debt, so that you can have all things that you need. But also, another thing that is so amazing out of this story to me is you take the oil. Oil, from the very beginning all the way into the New Testament, it always represents the Spirit of God. It always represents the Holy Spirit. That's why we now anoint people with oil. That is why then they anointed people with oil. The oil is always the Spirit. And yet that is what they have. That is what is going to be poured out whenever they go into their house and close the door. Amen. You know, in Matthew chapter 6 and verse 6, Jesus tells us that when we pray, to go into our room and to close the door where no one sees us. But the Father sees us in secret, and He will reward us in the open. And so this right here, this is a prime example of this. They go into the secret place. They go into their house. Yes. They close the door behind them, and then the Spirit is poured out. The oil is poured out. And so it stands true for us now. When we go into the secret place, when we go in and we meet the Father, He pours His Spirit out upon us. When we go into secret and we close the door behind us and we spend time with Him, it gives Him an opportunity to pour His Spirit out upon us. But another thing that's so incredible is while He's pouring His Spirit out, is are we making room for Him to pour His Spirit out? Because they went and they gathered empty vessels and they filled them up. But as soon as the empty vessels were filled, as soon as they were filled all the way to the full, then there was no more oil. If they would have gathered more vessels, they would have had more oil. And so it is the same for us. When we go into our prayer time, we go into the secret place with the Father. If we make room, He will continue to pour out. But that is our problem so often, is we don't honestly make room for Him. We make such a short room. We go gather one jar and we say, fill this one. You know, we sing that song, here's my cup, Lord, fill it up. But we need to get away from that, this little cup, and we need to step out into a big jar. We need to ask Him to fill the whole room. We need to gather as much as we can so that He can fill as much as we can. Because He has the Spirit to pour out upon us. He has the blessing to pour out upon us. But yet so often we don't give Him the opportunity. We sell God short. There's never a time where God is shortcoming on anything. Any blessing He ever says He will pour out, He will come past and He will pour it out. But we cut Him off so that He cannot. We don't gather enough vessels. And so we must be true to gather in the vessels that we're supposed to. And when we do, and we do go out, we have to examine the fact that it doesn't matter what we have. Because we look at the problem and situations that we have before us, and so often we look at it in a way of just a worldly view. Well, I have this much money so I can pay this much debt. I have this much money so I can give this much into missions. I have this much money so I can give this much at a food bank. But yet if we will hand it over to God instead of trying to keep it in ourselves and do it ourselves, He can multiply it to meet whatever need is before us. Whatever need is needed, He has the answer for it. No matter what it is, He always has the answer. And He always has plenty for the answer. And if y'all would, turn with me to John chapter 2. And we will look at some more full vessels. And there in John chapter 2, the story that is there is where Jesus turns water into wine. And in chapter 2 of John, we'll read verses 1 through 10. And there it says, on the third day there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Now both Jesus and His disciples were invited to the wedding. And when they ran out of wine, the mother of Jesus said to Him, they have no wine. And Jesus said to her, woman, what does your concern have to do with me? My hour has not yet come. His mother said to the servants, whatever He says to you, do it. I just want to stop right here. This is so funny to me that you take Jesus, He's just nearly rebuking His mother because she's telling Him to fill this need right here. He tells her, my time has not come. But yet she doesn't even acknowledge that. She just moves right on past it and tells the servants, you do what He says, because He's going to come through. He is going to come through with the blessing that we're in need of right now. And so that's so funny to me. And you know, this right here, you're kind of looking at, what I see is kind of the friendly banter between a mother and a son. But what I see is where we get discouraged thinking that He's not coming. We have this need and we cry out, and yet it's not immediately answered, and so we give up, we lose hope. But that's not what she does. She follows through, knowing that He's going to be there. It's kind of like taking a step into a river when you can't see the rock, but it's right underneath the surface. You know it's there, so you step out onto it anyways. It's kind of like that to me. She just goes right on and says, get him what he needs. Amen. And continuing on in verse 6, it says, now there were set there 6 water pots of stone, according to the manner of purification of the Jews, containing 20 or 30 gallons apiece. And Jesus said to them, fill the water pots with water. And they filled them up to the brim. And He said to them, draw some out now, and take it to the master of the feast. And they took it. When the master of the feast had tasted the water that was made in wine, and did not know where it came from, but the servants who had drawn the water knew, the master of the feast called the bridegroom. And he said to him, every man at the beginning sets out the good wine, and when the guests have well drunk, then the inferior. You have kept the good wine until now. You know, this is so awesome to me right here, is Jesus tells them to go and gather what it is that they have. They have a need. They have one thing, but it's not what their need is. They have water. They have water and ample need right here, but they have no need for it. They have all they could ever drink, but that's not what they're desiring. They're needing wine. And so sometimes we're that way. We have one thing, but it's not what we need. It is a useful thing, but it's not what we need here and now. And so Jesus tells them to go fill it to the brim. You know, and that's so interesting to me. He doesn't tell them to fill it halfway. He says fill it to the brim. He doesn't even say full. He says to the brim. You know, when it's to the brim, that's usually where you don't quite want it because it's going to splash over, right? That's where he tells them to fill it to. Because when Jesus is going to make a blessing in your life, it's going to be all the way full. It's never going to be half done. It is going to be all the way done. Pressed down, shaken together, and running over. That is the kind of blessings that Jesus puts upon us. And so we have to seek those blessings out. We have to prepare for those blessings. Because I'm sure this story would have ended a lot different if the servants wouldn't have obeyed. If they would have went and filled them halfway because that work was going to be easier. Because I'm sure by the time they filled these all the way up, they were heavy. And so this was work for them to go do this. But Jesus tells them to do the work, and then he comes through. He comes through with the blessing. He always comes through with the blessing. We just have to do the work he desires of us.
Amen. Amen.
And so we have to acknowledge that when we step out to do things. When we go to do the work, we have to acknowledge that we have to do it to completion, and then he will give us the blessing. We have to acknowledge that we cannot take the easy way out, that we cannot go the easiest path, the path that is most convenient for us at the time, the path that makes us comfortable. You know, when you go to witness to somebody, it's usually not comfortable, right? It's usually, you know, you could drop one word in and then drop it right there like that and move on. And you can go on telling, yeah, you know, I said one thing, but that may have not been what was desired of you. It may have been desired of you to go forth and to spread a full gospel into their lives. For all you know, they've never heard any gospel. And so you have to step out and do what is uncomfortable to receive the blessing. You have to do the work that you are told to do. And you have to be very conscious of what it is that you are supposed to be doing. Because, you know, it would be very easy for us to take this story and go, okay, they need wine. Why don't they just go find somebody that has wine? Well, that's not what they were told to do. They were told to obey Jesus, fill the pots with water all the way to the brim, and then he made it into wine. And so that was a better wine. That was better tasting. There's no telling what that was like. I mean, it's honest to goodness, heavenly wine. It came from Jesus. I mean, there's no telling what that was like. It was probably better wine than any of them have ever tasted and will ever taste. And that is what our blessings are like when they come from him. Is they are better than any blessing we've ever had and any blessing we will ever have, because it is the blessing that comes from God. Yes. And so, if y'all would, turn right over with me in John to chapter 10. And there in John chapter 10, we'll read verses 9 through 11. And starting in verse 9 of chapter 10 of John, it says, I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved, and will go in and out and find pasture. The thief does not come except to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And I have come that they may have life, that they may have it more abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd gives his life for the sheep. So that right there, here's another prime example of Jesus blessing us to the full. He has come so that we may have life. And that is a wonderful thing to have life. But it's not just life. It's life more abundantly. He has come that we may have the life in all fullness. And there are some translations, that's the way they actually translate that word abundantly, is they translated it as, you may have life to the full. And so that ties right in with our full vessels that we're filling up when we're waiting on his blessing. And so that's what he's come for. It's so that we may have life in all fullness. So that we may have the blessing and life in all abundance. And it is such a wonderful thing. It is such a beautiful thing. And that is the blessing that he has brought upon each and every one of us. He blesses us all individually with different blessings. But the life of abundance is the life that he blesses every one of us with. And sometimes when we say that word abundantly, we always think right of, financial matters and carnal things, physical things, tangible blessings that we can touch before us. But so often the greatest blessing of all is our spiritual blessings. The greatest blessing we can ever have is to have his Spirit residing inside of us and upon us, where he goes forth with us everywhere that we go and everything that we do. Because that is such a better blessing. You know, if we have everything we ever desire here, Jesus warns us that those people that have everything they ever want here, they have their reward, and all they have is condemnation coming later. But those of us that have suffered many things, that have done the work for him, our blessing is coming later. You know, and we call it in the afterlife so often, I think just because it makes us feel better about where we are right now. But honestly, eternity, it starts here and now, today. Today is the start of your eternity, and it goes on forever. It goes on to a distance that we cannot fathom, and that is our abundancy. You know, it doesn't just start when we die. It doesn't just start when we're raptured. It starts right now. And every step that we take, every word that we speak, and everything that we do. And it is so important that we acknowledge that. That is how we start to enjoy our life of abundancy. Because if we're so focused in on a bigger house, a nicer car, the biggest yard, the biggest set of crops, the biggest tractor, whatever it is, if that's what you're focused in on, then that's all you're after. And so in which case, you're never going to receive abundancy. You're never going to have life that is abundant like that. You may have a little bit of happiness here and now. You may be able to gloat when the neighbor comes by, but you don't have abundancy. You have carnal things that will rot, rust, and the moth will eat when you die. That is all there is to it. And so that's not what we want. We want to store up treasures that are waiting for us. We want to store up treasures that we can enjoy forever, for all eternity. You know, because God is forever. He is all things. He was in the beginning. He is in the end. He is the Alpha and the Omega, and He comprehends all things. And that is something that we cannot comprehend as people. That is a lot of our trouble, is our minds cannot wrap around the fact that He was there before there was anything. He was just there. That's why when we translate His name over, His actual name, the closest thing in English we can come to is I am. Because that's just it. When He said who He was, it's just I am there, I was there, I am present, I am always. That is who He is. That is who He is for us. That is how we have abundant life here on this earth. That is how we have abundant life in heaven, in the new kingdom, in the new Jerusalem when it comes. When He comes in and all things have passed away and then all things have become new. That is when we have our true abundancy. But it all starts here and now. When we start storing our treasures up here and now, going on into the next life, into our true life. Because this here, you know, we breathe here, we live here, we act out things here, we go through things here. But this is not our true life. This is not the life that He intended for us. The life He intended for us is there with Him, where we are not separated from Him. Because when Adam brought us all into sin, through one man we all entered into sin. Thus forth we are born into sin. We are separated from God by our sin while we're here on this earth. But as we go forth and we live our life, we store up our treasures in heaven. Then we release that separation. He brings us in after we get to go be with Him. And He brings us into perfection, how we were originally designed to be. Can you imagine that? How you were originally designed to be? How we were made in His image? How we were made to be like Him? You know, that's what we claim to be now. We call ourselves Christian, right? To be Christ-like. But so often we fall short of that. So often whenever you have somebody that drives by you and they're looking at you mean, you can't figure out why, I promise those thoughts when you're getting mad are not Christ-like. Guilty of that this morning. I'll just go ahead and claim that one. Anyways, and then somebody cuts you off in traffic. Those thoughts that you have about them, I bet they're probably not Christ-like. But that's what we're supposed to be, is Christ-like. Because we are created in His image. And so we have to move forward in that. And as He brings us into maturity or perfection, then He can bring us into a life of abundance. Then He can give us the gifts that He desires to. Then He can give us all things so that we are pressed down, shaken together, and running over. So that the oil never stops to run out. So that the Spirit is always there upon us, constantly moving, so that the room is filled as you walk in. Because that is what He desires for you, is so that you have His Spirit in abundance. And the abundant life that we have, it is so wonderful. It is such a blessing. It's such a wonderful thing. It's such a beautiful thing to have. But we have to be good stewards of what He does give us. If y'all would turn back with me in John in chapter 6. And there in chapter 6, we'll read verses 11 through 13. And this right here, this is kind of the tail end of one of the more famous stories of when Jesus feeds the 5,000. But there in chapter 6 and verse 11 it says, "And Jesus took the loaves, and when He had given thanks, He distributed them to the disciples, and the disciples to those sitting down, and likewise of the fish, as much as they wanted. So when they were filled, He said to His disciples, Gather up the fragments that remain, so that nothing is lost. Therefore they gathered them up and filled 12 baskets with the fragments of the 5 barley loaves, which were left over by those who had eaten." You know, one beautiful thing about this is that Jesus takes and he blesses it and He distributes it. And this is a physical need. They needed food for their body. They needed something to eat there where they were at. And Jesus multiplied their food so that there was enough for everybody. And He multiplied it until everyone was filled. But the part that I really want to look at here is what Jesus says. He says, "Gather up the fragments that remain, so that nothing is lost." You know, He tells us to be good stewards over what it is that He gives us. And so when He pours a blessing out upon you, whether it is a physical blessing where you have extra cash, or whether it is a spiritual blessing where His Spirit and His gifts are upon you. Don't waste it. Don't leave any so that it is left behind. Put it all to use. When He blesses you with a blessing of His Spirit, when He gives you one of His gifts, don't just hide it from the world. Put it out there and share it with everyone that you can.
Amen.
Bless everyone that you can with it. Because that is what we're here for, is to bless those around us, right? That is what Jesus did everywhere He went, as He poured blessing out. He performed miracles. He served in everything that He could. And so when He gives us gifts, that is what they're for, so that we can serve, so that we can do His work. And that is a very important thing, that we're good stewards of His gifts. You know, when you have a gift of tongues, so often we try to use it only for our own edification. We try to use it to only build ourselves up. But that's not what it's for. It is to build ourselves up. It is for our own edification. It is also for edification of the whole body. That is where the interpretation comes in. You receive a message in tongues, and then afterwards want an interpretation. So that there is prophecy that goes out inside of the congregation. So that message can reach out to one and touch one. So that message can reach out and touch the whole group. And He gives us the gift of prophecy. That is not just so that you know what's coming. That is so that the whole body knows what it is that's coming. That's what they're for. And you know, and then love, that is the greatest gift. But so often we hide our love from the world, right? Because we're scared it'll be, I guess, interpreted as weakness and give them a chance to get at our throat, I guess you might call it. That's not what that love's for. We're given the gift of love so that it can radiate out of us in everything that we do and everywhere that we go. And so that we can give love to everyone that we ever meet. And so that we have to be good stewards of the gifts that we get. And we don't want to leave any behind. We don't want to hide it from the world. We want to give it out. We want to share it. You know, He says that freely He has given to us, and freely we shall give. And so that is why we're supposed to go out and lay hands on the sick so that they may be healed. That is why we're to go out and cast out demons in the name of Jesus. It's because it has been freely given unto us, the abundant life that we have, and we're to freely give it out. That is what our duty is here. That is the work that we have. And if y'all would turn with me to 2 Timothy chapter 2. This is the last time we'll turn, if that makes y'all feel any better about it. And there in 2 Timothy chapter 2, we'll read verses 14 through 21. There in chapter 2 and verse 14 it says, "Remind them of these things, charging them before the Lord not to strive about words to no profit, to the ruin of the hearers. Be diligent to present yourself approved to God, a worker who does not need to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. But shun profane and idle babblings, for they will increase to more ungodliness, and their message will spread like cancer. Hymenaeus and Philetus are of this sort." I know one thing. These two here, they have been written down, recorded in this book forever, because God's word is forever. This is the word of God. And these two, they have been recorded for all eternity as ones that are going around spreading this cancerous talk of ungodliness and worldly talk and this terrible thing. Idle babbling, as it calls it. You know, and I promise that's not how we want to be remembered. We don't want to be remembered as the gossiper, as the backbiter, as the slanderer, because that's what He's warning against, is we don't want to be that person. And He's also warning us against is just that typical pointless talk about who's doing what, is how that starts. You know, usually when somebody starts stabbing somebody in the back, it doesn't start out with, "Oh, I'll show them." They just start talking. They're randomly talking about just whatever popped into their mind. We have to be cautious about the things that we think about, so that we're cautious about the things that we speak. And moving on in verse 18, it says, "Who have strayed concerning the truth, saying that the resurrection is already past, and they overthrow the faith of some. Nevertheless, the solid foundation of God stands, having this seal: the Lord knows those who are His, and let everyone who names the name of Christ depart from iniquity. But in a great house there are not only vessels of gold and silver, but also of wood and clay, some for honor and some for dishonor. Therefore, if anyone cleanses himself from the latter, he will be a vessel for honor, sanctified and useful for the master, prepared for every good work." That is us. We are the vessels. And that's why He says there are different kinds of vessels in a large house. And so that is what we are. Is we're in the house of God here, right? And so there are different kinds of vessels that you will find in the house of God. Because the house of God here, it's open to everyone, right?
Yes.
we're not just, oh, well, if you're already cleaned up, come on in, you know. It's open to everybody. We want everyone to come in and to see us so they can hear the Word of God, right?
Amen.
But that also means that you cannot discriminate against anybody that's coming in. And so when you have a vessel that has come in for dishonor, even though you can see that thing, that vessel still resides in the house. That vessel will still stay in the house. But you want to separate yourself from that. You want to be a vessel that is of good work. You want to walk away from all iniquity. You want to drive all these things out of your life so that you are a clean and useful vessel. So that you are a vessel that is designed for honor. That way you are silver and gold that has been refined by the refiner's hand, right? That way we can go out and do His work. Because until we leave our iniquity behind, until we step away from this ungodly behavior that sneaks itself into our lives, we're a vessel of dishonor. When we finally walk away from those things, we become a vessel of honor that is useful for the Master's work. And that is our whole purpose here, is to do the Master's work. We are to be a willing, working vessel for Him. We are to be filled up with His Spirit so that we can go out and pour His Spirit out. Because that is where you have these vessels that are out there that can be poured into other vessels, right? Going back to Elijah's story and the widow there. You know, how did they have oil to pour to begin with? Because there was already oil in their vessel, right? So you want to have that oil in your vessel when you go out into the world. You want to already have His Spirit residing inside you when you go out into the world. And that is how the Spirit is present there to be poured out into the other vessels. That is how the Spirit is present to fill the other vessels. And it will keep pouring and pouring and pouring. Because His Spirit is never ending. He has enough for all of us. His grace is sufficient for us. And by His grace we can go out and do His work. We have to have His grace in our lives. But we also have to live godly lives. And we're unspotted from the world. So that we have His Spirit residing inside of us. So that we can pour it back out onto those that we meet. So that we can pour our vessels back out so that we can fill other vessels. So that their vessels can be full too. So that they can be useful for the Master's work. Because if each one it makes a disciple of another, how fast does it spread? You know, I mean, how fast does that double over? You're multiplying every time, every time, every time. And next thing you know, there's a great revival. Because there is a great awakening coming in America. And it is coming very soon. There's a great awakening that is coming in the world. And it is coming very, very soon. And we want to be a part of that great awakening. We want to be in the midst of that great awakening. We don't want to be standing on the sides going, well, how did that happen? When did that start? Oh, I remember seeing that revival get going. No, we want everybody else to be going, they're the ones that were there. They were present when that started. They were doing the work of the Father when that awakening began. We want to be a part of it so we're inside of His will. Because anytime there is a great awakening, it is of His will. Because it is an awakening of His Spirit. It is awakening of the knowledge of God is there. Because right now in America, there is this battle that rages on more than ever, I believe. And it goes on. You can watch history repeat itself. You know, you have a great falling away, and it's a terrible thing. And then you have a dead area where just nothing happens. You have a few that are saved and a lot that are not. And you wonder, what is going on, God? Why is this happening? Why have you not returned, but yet we still fall into all these terrible things? But then comes the awakening. When the awakening comes, the church houses are full. There are revivals that go on for years and years, and it's wonderful and great. We want to be a part of that. The only way we can be a part of that is if we allow ourselves to be a willing, working vessel. If we cleanse ourselves from the iniquity of this world so that we're unspotted and blameless by this world's perspective, so that we can do the will of our Father. And so that being said, we want to make time and room for Him to fill us up. We want to go into the secret place and close the door, so that the things that we ask, so that our requests can be made known in secret, and our Father will reward us in the open, so that the world may be saved through the work of God, through the work that He does inside of us, through the work that He does inside of our church, inside of our country. And it'll be such a wonderful work, and we want to be a part of it. And right now, I would like to open up the altars if somebody would like to come play something for us. And I'd like to open